Alright, so I'm back here for the second part. I don't think this is going to be as long as that first one, but anyway, had to change my seating position here. My knees were starting to hurt. Anyway, so what do I have left here on my list? Let's see. Sort of along with that whole idea of the training and the mentoring and the knowledge sharing, etc., learning, essentially, that we're all doing as part of this learning technology project. We've been able to, obtain buy-in that, had been difficult to get before. Some of this actually did happen already. We provided a bunch of training, just sort of like standard Microsoft, like networking training, server training, etc. The sorts of things that they would need to be able to support this, because most of them were running this on Windows. In fact, the VM image and all that stuff that we're using is kind of built to be used on Windows. But anyway, so some of that did happen before. But now, more of that sort of has happened since we've been in Jimma, only one day. So we got here yesterday afternoon, and we went first thing, and we met with some of the ICT department, like second-hand man, right, to talk about what we were doing and sort of what we would need from them, or what we were hoping that they would collaborate with us on. And there was some hesitation. There's actually we found out there's another e-learning project here. Some NGO from the Netherlands or something has this project. They came at some point and installed Moodle, but it's just kind of sitting there right now, not doing anything. I think one of the reasons why I think we've been able to obtain this buy-in from folks is because they're seeing real progress, and we've got everything up and running in basically almost half a day, almost a full, 3/4 of a day or something. Then I had to go because I just felt horrible. Anyway, but then tomorrow we'll be uploading all of the content, so they'll actually have content that they'll all be able to access. We are also going to be meeting with these educational development centers, so the liaisons from there that that we're going to start that we need to get sort of on board. First for sort of this beta testing. I think I was talking about that before. But also, there's this whole item banking thing, and but we're really looking to sort of just integrate this into, like I said, all of this existing pre-service strengthening work that we're doing here. So it's really kind of cool. Like I said, we're still in the early stages, and we're kind of planning and rolling out slowly, and it's been a while. I'll admit, it's been a while, but it's looking good, and people are excited. And like I said, that excitement is part of, has led to some pretty significant buy-in. I mean, we've basically gotten everything we wanted here. And we said, for example, like we've installed the virtual machine server on this other machine that they were using for antivirus, and you're setting up the VM. You've got to specify a certain amount of RAM that you're going to use, and we basically said we'd want at the very least one gig of RAM out of this 4 gig machine, and I really don't think that's going to be a problem. But we're open to changing that if necessary, or moving it to another machine or whatever. But anyway, we've got some pretty significant buy-in, I think. So that's great. Also, interestingly enough, there's like 6 video conferencing endpoints set up here at Jimma. We met last week with some folks from this JHU Sahai project. I think I mentioned that in one of my other video blogs here, but apparently there is this initiative underway through the Ministry of Education, I think, to essentially set up video conferencing infrastructure across the country. So taking, I forget how many universities they're working on connecting, but essentially running fiber, from the university back to Addis, and then connecting all of the universities back to Addis, on this sort of star topology thing. But the idea is to start doing, some distance learning, video conference based distance learning here in Ethiopia, between schools. Now, of course, they didn't say anything about that network then being connected to the public internet, right? So once again, kind of like this whole thing before about Blogger and SMS and everything, it's sort of like this very kind of insular, protective, higher top-down kind of approach to ICT here in Ethiopia with the ETC and etc. But I mean, that infrastructure is great. I mean, putting that in place is great, and I think we might be able to do some really cool stuff with it. But once again, much like my comments of the day, imagine the benefits if that network were connected with, the global public internet. Not to suggest that, faculty here at different universities aren't perfectly capable of, providing distance education, for students at other universities. But once again, it's about a global discourse, we all learn more when we learn together, so hopefully at some point they'll connect this whole network to the internet. I think what happens now is that you can do it, but you've got to request special permission and everything and get things configured, etc. But it's kind of a pain. It's overly bureaucratic, and they haven't really done much with it. They tested it once, with some university in India, I think. But since then, stuff's just kind of sitting there. Even there's trash in the room. I mean, really. I mean, it's just sitting there. Great equipment too. I mean, we could be doing some really fascinating stuff here. But anyway. And the last bit, kind of related to that, I was talking about how the whole Blogger thing and how I can't access Blogger. Yesterday afternoon, after kind of looking at stuff and talking about stuff, and before we really got down to the meat of what we were doing here, we were looking at some of the labs, some of the computer labs around the campus. And so we went into this one, and I sat down, and I used, I figured, what the heck, I'm here. Let's try accessing Blogger. Let's see what happens. Same thing, I couldn't get anything. Page times out, etc., etc. And that kind of sparked a little conversation. I had a bunch of the other folks from the different universities, not like the head guys, but like the more junior staff folks with me there, and it was, we had a fun little conversation about blogging. The weird thing, can access YouTube, but can't access Blogger, can access WordPress, movable type, I mean, you name it, like any of these other, mega sort of blogging platforms, perfectly fine. But Blogger, nope. And actually some of them had sort of, once again, kind of like with the VM thing, they had heard about blogs, but they didn't really know what they were, and they had never really seen one. So I, took the opportunity also to kind of introduce them a bit to this kind of idea. To some, they've heard kind of some of these things. When I say wiki, they know Wikipedia, so that's, so they do know some of these. They are familiar with some of these Web 2.0 sort of tools, but that might be sort of like a next step, like then bringing in, so once we have the kind of traditional kind of e-learning, or articulate, content delivered via, learning management system, it'd be really fun to kind of start expanding into the sort of informal learning space, and maybe setting up, ELG or, WordPress, or, an instance of MediaWiki, whatever, but some of these, like I said, more these Web 2.0 tools, and start to see how we might potentially integrate that as well, into the learning process. That could be a lot of fun. Anyway, so I think that's it for now. And I said I wasn't going to take as much time, but I'm pretty darn close. I'm at like 8:45 right now. So yeah, good night from Jimma once again. Denaya Dadu? I don't know. I can't. My pronunciation is still really bad, but Denahunu. That means goodbye. So Denahunu from Jimma, Ethiopia, and I'll see you soon. All right, ciao. They say that here too, by the way.